Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us here at the First Alert Desk. My name is Karli Barnett. We want to give you your Saturday night update. We have First Alert meteorologist Cutter Martin. He's going to be joining us here in just a minute because we do have some heat that we're keeping an eye on in the week ahead, some temperatures that we do want you to be aware of to keep you safe, keep your family safe. We hope you joined us at 6 o'clock, but if not, we have our next broadcast tonight at 10. So remember, quick programming note there, due to football, we won't have our newscast at 9 o'clock, but we will have it at 10 and again at 11. Could possibly be delayed, but just keep it here on Atlanta News First, and we will keep you posted on all of these stories. Now, the first thing that we want to get to is a story that we have been following now since late Wednesday night is when we first got news of it. We had crews on it starting Thursday morning. Our reporter, Asia Wilson, is in East Point right now trying to get the latest on a missing 2-year-old. He has been gone now since Wednesday night. That's when he was first reported missing. Take a look at your screen. This is Josiah Mitchell. Now, if you've been following our coverage, you know that this has been a pretty complex investigation. What you're looking at here is the Elite at Lakeview Apartments. That is where he was last reported to be seen, and starting on Friday, police began draining the lake there. Now, they did not specifically say why they were led to this lake in particular. We do know that it is the lake near where we are told the father lives. Now, we have been told that it is just a precaution, that they are leaving no stone unturned. But we were out there yesterday. I was out there all day yesterday. Excuse me. And they had been draining for several hours, and we were told it would take until well after midnight. Well, it still hasn't even fully drained. We're told there was an error with the pump, and that is something that they're going to be looking into to continue to drain the rest of the lake. When asked why not send divers, we were told divers were first sent out there to begin with, but the lake was too murky, and that's why they believed that draining it would be the best option. So again, we know this was originally reported as a kidnapping in DeKalb County back on Wednesday night. So we're told that the father first told investigators that Josiah had been kidnapped during an armed robbery around 11:30 p.m. on Wednesday, initially saying this happened at an apartment complex in Decatur. That is why DeKalb County initially led the investigation. They said, however, that it did not meet the criteria for a Levi's call, which is the Georgia version of an Amber Alert. And they didn't say why it didn't meet that criteria, but later in the day they did say that they did not believe a kidnapping took place in DeKalb County, and that the investigation was being turned over to East Point Police, and that is where they believe that the boy was last seen. You just saw his family members out there. They were out by that lake all day yesterday, this morning, just waiting for any answers and hoping to get more information. It's important to note here, the father of Josiah Mitchell, 23-year-old Artavius North, he was arrested for making false reports and false statements and filing a false report with police. So at this point, Josiah is still missing. His family still waiting for any answers. We have reached out to investigators. They have stayed very tight-lipped on this investigation. So we really don't know where they are at in this process, other than that they are investigating any and all leads and staying on top of this case. Again, Asia Wilson, she's been out there for us all day. She is developing all the latest information and speaking to anyone she can, just to try to see where everyone's mindset is in this process. I spoke to the grandfather last night, and they just say how much they love that little boy and that they're just wanting good news. They're holding on to hope here. So this is Been a story that we've been covering now for the last few days. We're going to stay on top of this news, and we will give you those alerts. If you haven't already, you can download our app. You can get push alerts sent to the app. So if there is any breaking news regarding this story, you will get that right away. And also important, too, for the weather that Cutter is about to mention here in just a moment. But the app is a great way to stay on top of those things, and you can get that information as soon as we get that information. Taking you now to another story, really a few stories. It was the start of football, many schools playing high school football last night, but there were unfortunately a few scares at various high school football games. We have some video. This incident was out of Gwinnett in particular. You see that crowd of people running away. This was at Discovery High School Stadium in Lawrenceville. Gwinnett County law enforcement looking into that. And while there's certainly panic there was not confirmation that there were actually any shots fired or that a gun was even involved. We do know there was a shooting in Ackworth near North Cobb High School involving a 17-year-old. We're told that shooting was not life-threatening. But I did want to point out an article that we saw from our sister station, WTOC, out of Savannah. They had mentioned that the season opening football game there between Benedictine and Jenkins High School ended early last night because of a disturbance off field that began around halftime. And the school system there said preliminary information suggested the disruption started because of a TikTok challenge. That challenge is supposed to create the impression of a large, chaotic event. So the school system there in Savannah saying that there was never a stadium-wide threat at any time. Now, this going back to this event in Gwinnett County, we do not know that that is what took place there. At this point, police have said something happened, some sort of scare happened. However, there's no evidence that any shots were fired or that there was a gun there to begin with. So I bring up this incident in Savannah just for parents and students to be aware that there is apparently a TikTok challenge out there that involves essentially pretending that there is some sort of chaotic event happening. And obviously that can be very scary. That can be very dangerous in these sorts of situations where people are trying to run away quickly. So just, again, not trying to conflate with what happened in Gwinnett County, but just important to be aware that there are challenges like that out there. Always a good idea, just monitoring your child's social media and kind of seeing, what is making the rounds within their school, because there seems to be all kinds of these challenges nowadays, and some of them could turn dangerous. All right, we also want to talk about, on a lighter note, it is the weekend. You may be looking for some things to do. The Piedmont Park Arts Festival, that started this morning. There's going to be more than 250 different artists there, painters, photographers, sculptors, leather, metal workers, and jewelers, so really something for everybody. We'll go ahead and take you outside right now. Captains of Revelry will be the DJ. There's going to be a children's play area. So that already wrapped up for today. But if you're looking for something to do for your Sunday, that will be from 11 until 5 tomorrow. And of course, to get out and enjoy the rest of your weekend, we need some nice weather for it. But maybe just go ahead and pack an extra water bottle. Definitely pack the sunscreen. Am I missing anything, Cutter? We definitely need to be aware of that heat, right?
Oh, yeah. The good old bucket hat, sunglasses, keep the sun off of you as much as possible. Warming trend underway. Yesterday we were 90. We shied away from 90 briefly today. So officially not hitting the big 90. Nonetheless, it was warm, and it will continue to be warm. In fact, tomorrow we're forecasting mid-90s as a ridge of high pressure begins to really build across parts of the United States, including the mid-south, the southeast. Of course, our neck of the woods included in that, and that is when, as the ridge of high pressure builds, we're expecting temperatures to really soar. So initially, it was a gradual warm-up, and today, in fact, just 1 degree cooler than yesterday, but we're really going to see that temperature crank up as we get into tomorrow, and then especially the work week. First alert Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This is an evolving weather pattern, of course, as always, but in particular, this pattern is something very anomalous, a little unusual. There is some uncertainty in the specifics. We know it's going to get hot, but the question is how hot and exactly how long is the heat going to last. So we're going to chat about it here. I want to remind you we're streaming across platforms. platforms, all of them this evening at AtlantaNewsFirst.com, the Atlanta News First app, First Alert Weather app, Roku, Amazon Fire Stick. If you have any weather questions, comments, concerns, the place to be, though, even if you're streaming on another platform, is going to be Atlanta News First on YouTube. In fact, we already have some comments. Jamia, Dean, and Jason, hopefully I pronounced your names correctly. If I didn't, give me a holler. My name is Cutter, First Alert Meteorologist here at Atlanta News First. Going to go ahead and dive in to the forecast just a bit before we get too deep into the nitty-gritty details. We're just going to talk about what's going on this evening. And right now, not too bad out there. 86, still warm. Top of the 8 o'clock hour in Atlanta. You get outside of that urban core with all the pavement hanging on to the heat. And it's a little cooler. Carrollton, 78. Locust Grove, 81. Covington, 80. 80 up in Gainesville, 78 Athens, 73. That's the cool spot right now. Of course, no surprise. Higher elevation up there in Blairsville, 84. Still warm up in Floyd County, and a warm evening is in the First Alert forecast. Speaking of some cooler spots, we do have Cohutta there in far northern Georgia, approaching the Tennessee state line, 77. University of North Georgia at Blue Ridge, 73. Blairsville, as mentioned, 73. And Hayesville, North Carolina, 72. 64 up in Highlands, North Carolina. Of course, they are way higher than the city of Atlanta is in elevation. Hour-by-hour forecast. Temperatures continuing to gradually cool. Still thinking low, maybe even some mid-80s in the immediate city of Atlanta area, top of the 9 o'clock hour. Most of us, if not all of us, though, back in the upper 70s by 11 p.m. 73 at 5 a.m., 73, 7 a.m., so we'll bottom out in the lower 70s tomorrow morning inside the perimeter. Outside of I-285 easily, some more mid to upper 60s, so not a bad start to the day at all. And temperatures do warm up pretty quickly tomorrow. Notice by 9 a.m. we're back in the upper 70s, and by noon a lot of folks by that point getting out and about in their day, and we'll have temperatures already at that point back in the 80s, perhaps nearing 90 by early afternoon. Tomorrow's forecast, we'll roll you hour by hour here. Kicking it off tomorrow morning, early on, we'll start at 6 to 7. Again, we give you that Atlanta hour by hour, but let's expand the picture here. So rolling you back to 7, starting the clock there, upper left-hand corner of the screen, upper 60s, lower 70s. Here we are as we get into the noon hour, 88 in Atlanta, 87 LaGrange, 85 in Griffin, 86 in Rome. By early afternoon, 94. This is actually mid-afternoon in Atlanta, 90 Roanoke, 92 Rome, 91 in Washington, well to our east, back towards Augusta. So low to mid-90s kind of the rule tomorrow afternoon, and we're looking at data, always looking at the new data coming in, fine-tuning that forecast. We may be able to take a degree or so off of that temperature tomorrow afternoon, forecasting a high tomorrow of 95. Some of the more recent data, maybe just a tad cooler, 94 or so around the metro, though most maybe 92 to 96 tomorrow afternoon. So that's really the only minor adjustment you may notice in the late evening forecast, but it is going to be hot. No matter which way you slice it tomorrow, also mostly dry with plenty of sunshine. And the forecast remains hot through the rest of the work week. In fact, we're tracking some really, really warm weather as we get into the start of the actual work week. We'll pull out high temperatures here for you day by day. Notice how Monday 97, Tuesday 99. Tuesday is the first alert, so keep that in mind. I think that the combination of heat and maybe some humidity by Tuesday especially will make it feel even hotter, and that hot weather pattern doesn't loosen anytime too soon. We have very hot weather in the forecast, in fact dangerous heat, as we get into next week. 100 degrees Wednesday, 99 Thursday, 100 Friday, 100 Saturday, and at times it'll feel like it's 105 to 110 degrees potentially, depending on how much moisture remains in the air, remains in the atmosphere as we go into each afternoon. We'll be fine-tuning that part of the forecast, of course, going forward. But it's important to know confidence is high in the overall pattern, and that is the fact that it is going to get hot next week. But it's the specifics, exactly how hot each day and which day ends up being the hottest, that we're going to be still working to resolve here at Atlanta News First. Going to be passing along this information, digital forecasts like the one you're watching right now. Also coming up tonight, we do not have a 9 o'clock newscast, and part of our 10 o'clock may be preempted on Peachtree TV. Of course, we are streaming football right now. And as we get into the late evening, WANF, we're live at 11 with the complete first alert forecast going forward. But in general, just know it is going to get very, very hot next week, and we are pretty confident in that forecast. Not just hot, but also with lots of sunshine and a continued dry forecast. Notice not a single rain chance greater than 10% there on that extended forecast. Looking very, very hot as we get into the middle portion of next week. Perhaps hitting 100 for the first time Wednesday, though some data suggesting Tuesday, and not a huge difference between 99 and 100 degrees. Still going to feel very, very hot. 99 Thursday, maybe with a few more clouds around. 100 Friday, 100 Saturday, and then it does look like later Saturday into Sunday we could see a more substantial break in the heat. Maybe finally the heat wave breaks and maybe still warm, but a greater chance of showers and storms, and then maybe a more significant, maybe 6 to 12 degree cool down as we get into next weekend. And a reminder, you can always get that 10-day forecast in the First Alert weather app. Scan the QR code to upper right-hand corner of this weather graphic, or to search Atlanta News First or First Alert Weather in your app or Google Play Store. It's a free and easy download. We'll keep you updated there. In fact, I'm going to record a video, send the latest forecast update probably within the next 30 minutes. It'll be in the First Alert Weather app. For now, though, I want to thank you for watching. You can also track the latest on Hillary and what we have going on in the tropics. We are tracking a few waves. In fact, let's go ahead and chat about it now. Not too many changes from when you spoke with Courtney this morning. But we do have a new tropical depression well out in the Atlantic, not forecast to adversely impact any landmass except for the potential of heavy rain in the Caribbean. Though let's start with Hillary. A Category 2 hurricane, was a Category 4 yesterday. Obviously, it's encountering some wind shear and much cooler water temperatures. That was forecast. What hasn't changed is the fact that drenching, flooding rains are expected across a large portion of the Southwest, the desert Southwest, the interior deserts of Nevada, California, and western Arizona. And of course, the big cities in Southern California could also be impacted by heavy rain. They will be, and the potential for some gustier winds. Back in the Atlantic Basin, though, now we have Tropical Depression 6, forecast to not reach tropical storm status. It'll weaken before it approaches the Antilles, but still could be a heavy rain producer looking further out in the forecast. Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, the northern windwards there. And besides that, we have many other areas that we are watching. Several tropical waves in areas of storminess, a medium chance of development of perhaps a tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico as we get into later tomorrow and Monday. It'll bring soaking, very beneficial rains to portions of Texas and northern Mexico. Another tropical wave entering the eastern Caribbean has a greater chance, a high chance of development within the next 3 to 7 days. That could impact Haiti and the Dominican Republic initially, and then we'll have to see what happens after that. We have Tropical Depression 6 and then 2 more waves out in the far eastern Atlantic. If they develop, likely to remain out to sea. Nonetheless, worth watching. We'll keep an eye on that forecast for you and keep you updated. Reminder, no 9 o'clock newscast this evening on Peachtree TV, and we may start that 10 o'clock just a little late. Regardless, we'll be on at the very latest back on 11 a.m. at 11 a.m. on WANF. We'll keep you updated right there at AtlantaNewsFirst.com. And again, you can always get that forecast in the First Alert Weather app. Stay cool. Have a good evening. Warm tomorrow. Scorching hot as we get into the work week.